Greetings, Rink Rats. I hope you are all doing well and you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. My name is Andy Campbell. Welcome to Season 7, Episode 9 of Chicago Rinkcast. And unfortunately, we have a lot to cover tonight. And I do say unfortunately because if you have been following the Chicago Blackhawks, they haven't exactly been in the news for on-ice things yet again. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But we've got a great cast tonight. We have Jeff Osborn, the Bard, Eric Andrews, and Brent Meske here with us. Jeff Osborn, how are you, gatekeeper? What's going on, my friend?
I am good. I would be better with the recent news. I would be better, but I am representing my boys at the Burbank Fire Department tonight.
All right.
They gave me a special shirt, so I have to shout out to the boys at the Burbank Fire Department.
Excellent. Sounds good. Bardo, you hanging in there, man? Good Thanksgiving?
Hanging in there. Still full from Thanksgiving, but all good.
Excellent. And Brent, how have you been, my friend? Haven't seen you in a little while. Welcome back.
I'm being yelled at on Twitter about Corey Perry. And
you fit with this group so well.
That happens.
I tweeted that thread out and did not expect it to blow up the way that it did. So that's been a fun 24 hours. But
is that your well-said thread?
Yeah. Thank you to the people that have responded that actually have a functioning brain. It's nice to hear.
Well said, Fred. Is that what we're going to call Brent from now on? Well said, Fred?
There you go. That works. And Eric Andrews, our content editor and avid card collector, who we hope is trying to get deals to move all of his Corey Perry cards at the moment. How are we doing today, Eric?
Doing well. I must say I don't have really any notable Corey Perry cards, and that's probably a good thing.
Good. That's great. That's good. That's good.
Probably because they weren't worth jack shit in the first place.
It'd be tough to give those away right now. So, anyway, folks, if you're following the Chicago Blackhawks and you've had your head in the sand or you've been really, really busy the last few days and you don't know what's going on, we'll recap some of that. Corey Perry, healthy scratch last week, right before puck drop, when they were going to look into a matter, has since been terminated by the Chicago Blackhawks. They terminated his contract for violation of team conduct, and something went down. We don't exactly know what happened. There are rumblings that it had to do with an employee. It happened on the road. It happened when the team was away from home. And Corey Perry is no longer in a Chicago Blackhawk uniform. You will not see him. That was a very, very short-lived Corey Perry tenure in Chicago. So for those of you that didn't want him here, don't like him in the first place, you can now resume your Corey Perry hating safely. At any rate, it's one of those, which was Brent's awesome quote, not mine. Anyway, the Blackhawks continue to be exhausting off the ice, and it's getting very tiresome. We're going to get into the Corey Perry stuff right now, but first, guys, any of you have any initial thoughts on what is going on with Corey Perry, what you're hearing, the move and how the Blackhawks handled it, etc. And let's just start to kick the tires with a little bit. Obviously, there's one rumor out there that is incredibly untrue and inaccurate, and shame on you for believing it if you're believing it, and shame on you for whoever's starting it and running with it and keeps it going. That aside, let's get down to what we do know and what we don't know. I'm going to start with Eric Andrews because he's a good guy, and I'm very curious on his insight. Eric, how are you feeling about all the Corey Perry stuff that's going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, of course, it's unfortunate. Not much more needs to be said about that. But as far as the Blackhawks' response to it, I don't think that there's really too much more that anyone could have asked in this situation. They became aware of the issue, and immediately removed him from the team and started looking into it right away, and came to the conclusion that his conduct was not appropriate, and then proceeded with, permanently removing him from the team. So, I really don't know what more anyone could have wanted for their reaction to that and how they handled it. And, of course, with the Kyle Beach incident, obviously now seeing this, how they handled it is definitely encouraging, knowing that they were wanting to be, a lot stricter with things and, frankly, handling things properly. And so the fact that it seems like they really did, act quickly and appropriately with this is definitely encouraging.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, so now we've got a comment right away from Robert Brown. Robert, thank you for listening and thank you for participating. Question: the drunken argument at a dinner with Blackhawks executives present. That's one thing that some rumors that are going around that there was some sort of function and Corey Perry, acted inappropriately in some way, shape, or form. The only thing we can say about that, and I don't know if any of you have anything to say about this, any of my colleagues here, but we really don't know. I don't know, and I don't know if there will ever be a public message to the fans saying, it's not exactly. I don't think it'd be Kyle Davidson's style to call another press conference and go, "Hey, we know there's a lot of rumors out there, but here's exactly what happened."
What he's referring to. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bardo. No,
I was going to say what he's referring to, I believe, was the Emily Kaplan report that basically said that there was a team function in Nashville, and it was attended by Blackhawks executives as well as sponsors.
Right.
And so, and I guess he got a little, inebriated, let's call it.
Yep.
And again, this is all a report. This has not been confirmed. It's just what sources are telling Emily Kaplan from ESPN, that something happened inappropriate that he did. We don't know what that is. But it was then reported, I guess, the next day or that night, two team executives, two HR, who then, obviously they were en route to Columbus. And then that's when Corey Perry got pulled and, they investigated it. So obviously the Blackhawks are very sensitive right now with everything that went on with the Kyle Beach situation. So anything that they hear, there's going to be a zero tolerance policy. And look, if an employee, felt uncomfortable, they have every right, and they should step forward and say, this happened to me. I'm uncomfortable because this, they could take steps further and press charges. There's a lot that they can do, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, that's reportedly, I should say, what happened. Right. So, but you're 100% right. Kyle Davidson's not going to call a press conference. We'll find out for sure what happened, through just, reporting and leaks and all that other stuff, but that's it.
Yeah, no, good call. I appreciate it. So now the NHLPA has 60 days to file a grievance, if I was seeing that correctly, to see if he was, terminated without cause or now I don't even know what that means. I mean, Gate, do you have any idea what that means? Is that something like if they found out that he was terminated inappropriately, can he sue the Blackhawks or something like that?
I don't know. He may be the Blackhawks may be on the hook for the money part of it.
Got it.
Because they basically, he's not going to get paid for the entire year,
right?
Like he should have. So they may be on the hook for the money, but I don't think they're going to they're not going to get to a point where they're going to be able to reinstate him. So that's not going to happen.
Well, not with the Hawks, but
right.
I mean, there's similar incident with the current head coach of the Boston Bruins, Jim Montgomery, when he was in, Dallas, and there was some sort of report of some sort of team function where he had a few too many, and he was obviously dropped by the Dallas Stars, but then, is now still back in the league. But
yeah, right. And I would say right now he's not accused of anything,
right?
That's against the law. It's just basically a moral thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like. He could probably sign tomorrow with whoever, and the league probably isn't going to make a big deal about it. It depends on what he wants to do, I would assume. It's not like I don't know that it's necessarily going to be an automatic thing. It's not, because if he doesn't want to pursue it, it's embarrassing probably, and he may just want to let it go and be like, "Hey, listen, I want to move on, go somewhere else, or do whatever," and that's fine. That's his right to do that.
I think the PA is going to file something because I don't think they want to set a precedent that they wouldn't support their player, being that they are a union. So I think they're going to do that. It may be window dressing. So I'm saying that they're going to do it, but it's going to be with a caveat. But they may not have a leg to stand on, and they may do it regardless because, look, there's moral things within these contracts. So quite frankly, like, they may just do it and say, okay, we're doing it because we need to show that we back our player.
unless the NHLPA has changed their stance, they have left players hung out to dry before.
Mm-hmm.
They did it to Patrick Kane. I mean, there was when Patrick Kane was going through stuff, and I know they got a new head and all that stuff, but it wouldn't be the first time the NHLPA didn't do anything. And I don't want to go on a side. I don't want to go to side bender, but if anyone saw that thing with Scott Darling and what he said about the players assistance program and the NHLPA and all that stuff, and how they're a bunch of crooks and all that stuff, like,
yeah,
what
do you call them? Monsters? Didn't you say they're monsters?
Yes,
said,
they're monsters.
If you want to get help, you got to do it on your own.
Yep.
Said don't go through player assistance. They're monsters. I mean, that's what he said verbatim. So Brent, what do you think? I mean, do you think the Hawks acted appropriately doing this swiftly? I mean, again, we don't really know exactly what happened, and we know about what was reported in the Emily Kaplan article, or is this is this a byproduct of the sensitivity of what the Hawks have dealt with in the past, and so they just don't want any BS right now? If this was a different year, a different team, would they just be like, well, let's just be like, Corey, you can't do that, buddy?
It very well could be overblown to a sense because of the Kyle Beach thing, but I would rather be a fan of a team that takes these types of things seriously
100%.
rather than doesn't. So, I mean, I think my big problem with everybody's reaction to it is Kyle Davidson had nothing to do with Beach and Aldrich. He wasn't here. Like, if I'm going to sit back and think that there's a cover-up anywhere, my number one spot is probably going to be looking at Winnipeg. Because guess who's in charge there? Shovel Dayoff.
Yep.
He was assistant GM with Bowman. I think it was said like he knew. I think he was part of that report. And he still has a job.
Yeah.
So why look at Davidson? He had nothing to do with it. He wasn't here. I mean, it's just ridiculous that he's getting essentially shit on for working for the Hawks.
Right.
I mean, it's not on him. He's clearly stated, I want to be more transparent. I want to be open with fans. And I think yesterday was as open and transparent as he could be in that situation.
Yeah, and he's clearly not totally okay with it either. I mean, he's very sad about it.
And that was a lot of my argument on that thread with a couple individuals too. Was like, that's not how business works. You can't just air out why someone was fired. If you walked into your office tomorrow and George 2 cubicles down was fired, you're not going, hey, why was he fired? I deserve it.
Yeah, right. Let's get on Twitter and stir the pot here.
Yeah. At the end of the day, they're a company. Yeah, they're a sports team.
Do what they want.
You feel like you need to know. Of course, I think all 5 of us can say, like, I would love to know exactly what happened. It's not my right to, though. Like, they owe me no explanation. So I think that's really my main problem with it is give Davidson a chance. Like, everything he's done to this point says that he's different and he's going to be transparent and hold people accountable. So until he's proven otherwise, and that's why I put it in the thread. If this was all an act and smoke and mirrors and it comes out, guess what? He's going to get fired. Like, he's going to have to wear that. Like, if this is all an act and, this stupid rumor is true by some absurd change of events, which it's not. Like,
no chance.
Kyle Davidson is going to have to, he's not going to get away with it. This isn't just smoke and mirrors. Like, he has no reason to lie here.
No.
What reason does he have?
No, I totally agree. And Sean Fitzgerald, who's not with us tonight, he's a regular on this podcast, and I feel better, Shawnee. Just wrote in that
I thought this was an obituary. Sean is no longer with us.
Sorry, he's not here tonight.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, Sean.
Nobody cares, Sean. Nobody cares.
We care a lot, Sean, and that's why we're talking about you.
Well,
anyway, he wrote they have to hold themselves to a higher standard because of the past. Absolutely. And if that higher standard is, if you're going to be a meatball, we don't want you around here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's okay. I mean, it's Corey Perry. Like, it's like, okay, we signed this guy because we need to, hit the salary floor. He's not a long-term fixture. He's not part of the rebuild.
They traded for him. That's one thing that I had to re-look up when I wrote the article on that. They actually traded for Corey Perry, and he came over with Foligno.
That's right.
I mean, he didn't come out. The other one was for Foligno, but they traded for Corey Perry
and Hall.
to take him off of Tampa Bay's
And look,
Cap.
this is also a team that's trying to, reestablish and rebuild a culture. I mean, and you can't have shit like that happening.
No, and if you're coming over, they brought him over to be a veteran presence on a young team to set a good example for young players. And if he's not doing it, kick him to the curb.
I mean, basically, the line that everyone has heard or maybe even said is that they brought him in to teach the younger guys how to be a pro and act like a pro. And he basically went absolutely against that if the reports are accurate.
They put an A on his sweater. I mean,
yeah,
they wanted him to be the example.
Yeah.
You do have the young guys that were probably at that party, if that's what happened, that were like, whoa, look at Corey tonight. And I think it's totally fine to show the younger guys like that's not how we do things around here anymore. If that's in fact what happened. Brent, what else you got for us on this matter?
I think I just had one thing that I took away from that press conference that I haven't really seen anyone talk about. I thought it was weird that the whole point was we kind of misscouted Corey Perry in a way, like we didn't get the right information.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Luke Richardson's guy in Montreal? Was this truly a one-off thing, or does Luke Richardson need to be held accountable? What is this? Because if this is something that was there and Luke Richardson is just saying, you know what, I like and trust the guy, that falls on him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have nothing saying that, that is the fact. I just kind of thought about that, what we all kind of know. Nobody really likes Corey Perry on the ice, but up until this, especially seeing him with the Hawks, he seemed like a decent guy off the ice. He seemed like he cared. He was trying, doing stuff with the community, with the kids. So it didn't seem like it meshed. But then you get that of is there that background? Did people know? Did Richardson know? It just felt weird to me that we had that background between Luke and Corey, and then this kind of comes out of left field.
Yeah,
good point by Shawnee.
What's that?
I was just a good point by Sean. Montreal had Bergevin as the GM during Perry's tenure there in Montreal. So, he was part of that cover up in 2010. So, if you start to kind of create the links, if you will, then it's possible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he had some other things that he did up there. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
all speculation. So
yeah,
and that was the only other weird connection that I saw. That I don't really think there's a strong thing there, but it's a little weird that within the matter of a week, you wanted Milan Lucic, he resigns, you got Corey Perry instead. That's a little weird. I don't think there's any correlation there. These things you can't just predict, but that's weird.
Yeah,
two guys that within a week were 1 and 2 on your list. That's weird.
I don't know. I mean, that there could be. Yeah, I don't know. It could be just completely circumstantial.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I looked at that. I was like, that is weird. You can't scout that stuff. You can't ask the guy oh, hey, are you going to be a problem for us? Of course the answer is no. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't. To those, and I just wanted to mention this real quick, and anyone else jump in, but to the people out there that didn't get their information fast enough, and in modern day society, you have to have that for whatever reason, in electronic form or viral, and who started those rumors about another player's family. That's just to the point where people are actually believing that or texting people and say, "Is this true? Is this true?" I mean, I don't know about you guys. I got so many text messages yesterday from people that I haven't talked to, someone who I hadn't talked to in years saying, "Can you believe this? Is this true about your Hawks?" And it's just the fact that happened and that people are so bored.
Yeah.
Go get a hobby, go meet somebody instead of starting rumors about an 18-year-old kid and his family. What are you doing?
This stuff happened with Kane too, when all the Kane stuff didn't come out. The fans were, there was a lot of assumptions and things like that. So it did happen. But the one thing that I wanted to take away from that is I can understand, I understand there's people around the league that are not fans of the Blackhawks and they want to dunk on the Blackhawks and they want to dunk on the Bedard thing. I get it. I understand it. I don't agree with it. I think it's stupid, but I get that it's coming.
Sure.
Where I do not understand is Blackhawks fans. You were handed this generational talent because, you won the draft lottery. You have this generational talent. He's the next Taze, next Kane, whatever. And in his rookie season, 20 games into the season, you're going to run with a rumor, something about his family. I mean, what more could put a sour taste in someone's mouth to want to stay in a city,
right,
when you attack his family 20 games into his rookie season? Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. It's not funny. It's not cool. Like, you're piling on to something that's terrible and is going to make a player feel awful in his family. Like, stop. Like, we want this guy to stick around. We want him to be a career Blackhawk. We don't want to chase him away by you acting like a jerk online because you think you're dumb. You think you're clever, and you're the 4 millionth person to make that joke. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense to me from that point of view.
No, I totally agree. It's just it's sickening. It's nonsense, and it's just it was so quiet on the Corey Perry front. Well, the Blackhawks were doing the investigation that led to boredom and rumors. I mean, I don't know how else you spin it, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, we can go on and on about that. I guess Matt Pisnarski, really good question. Will the Hawks be stuck with the penalty cap with Corey Perry's cap hit? Eric, you had some thoughts on that when we were DMing on breaking down what he signed for, what that structure was, and what the Hawks are on the hook for. Do you mind commenting on that?
Yeah, so as many people know, his contract was for $4 million total. Now, half of that was a signing bonus, so he got the $2 million up front. So the remaining $2 million was an actual playing salary that was obviously spread out over the course of the season. So being a quarter of the way through the season, roughly, that means he earned roughly $500,000. So essentially that $1.5 million that was left, he's essentially forfeiting by having the contract terminated. And as far as the cap implications for the team, that contract is gone. Now, of course, if it is, if something happens with the grievance with the PA, maybe something could change. But as of how it stands today, that contract is as if it never was even signed in the first place, as far as the cap implications moving forward.
And it's not as if they're in cap problem anyway. So,
well, it's actually interesting because, and maybe we can lead this into the Anthony Beauvillier discussion, but with Taylor Hall's injury and now Perry being gone, they were actually dangerously close to the cap floor. So that's why they went out and got Beauvillier, not only just for the roster spot and to get another NHL, level player, but they actually needed the money, because if they didn't do that, they were like one injury away from no longer being cap compliant and being underneath the floor.
Yikes.
Why didn't they just go out and sign Phil Kessel?
Oh, right.
Oh, God.
What is the penalty if you're not cap compliant? Like, what happens to a team in the middle of the season if you're not cap compliant?
2 minutes for tripping.
Everybody on the ice gets a 10-minute misconduct.
No, but seriously, does anyone? I'm just curious. Like, do you lose a pick? Do you? I don't know.
I don't know. It's probably something of that nature.
Yeah,
I think it actually might be a financial.
Could be that too.
Like just a fine.
A financial
like
penalty.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that'd be interesting to find out. But at any rate, I mean, so we'll get into the signing of Beauvillier in just a second. But Corey Perry's gone, folks. He ain't coming back. Maybe he'll be on another NHL team. I think the general consensus is the Blackhawks, they had something that they needed to deal with, and they dealt with it. Now, if any of you out there, I just want to say this last thing, and anyone can comment on it if they want to, but if anyone really wants to question a similar circumstance in the old regime versus the new regime, 20 years ago, the old regime hired someone to follow around Theo Fleury to make sure he wasn't drinking and going to strip clubs. And they paid this person $65,000 a year. That's handling it poorly.
Mm-hmm.
That's handling a situation like that poorly. Here we had an incident. The Hawks said, just get him out. So if you're looking for comparisons on something of this fabric between the old and the new, you've got it right here. So, Kyle Davidson had a very tough job to do yesterday, and he did it pretty well. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he handled his the best he could have.
Yep.
They removed the guy from the situation immediately. They sent him home. They did their investigation. They found their investigation found that he was, reckless or whatever. They terminated his contract and they're done with it. They did it what they should. Now the meatballs will say he didn't because they didn't come out and say Corey Perry came out and whipped it out on the table in front of all these people.
Well, and guys like Mark Giordano who are still going, well, they still need to tell us more. For what? For you, Mark? Like for what? Like they don't need to do anything. I don't know. And there's a lot of legalities probably that we don't know about.
When you terminate a contract, I mean, you can't just go out there and say I terminated the contract because this, that, and the other, and just tell the public it doesn't have to be public knowledge.
Yeah. If Corey Perry wants to go, on 60 Minutes and tell people what happened, I mean, I think he's in the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the organization has zero reason, or they don't have to do that. So
and exactly to that point, like if Corey Perry felt like he was fired for no reason, you don't think he'd be speaking out about that right now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
he'd be going, what the hell is going on?
He'd be calling his own press conference right now.
Yeah. And for all the people out there that are screaming, "Oh, transparency!" Transparency doesn't mean. I mean, they're not going to come out here and tell you their deepest, darkest secrets. Like they're going to tell you they're going to tell you which direction the organization is going. They're going to tell you, there's levels to this transparency. Like you can't just say transparency and then and make it be a thing, because it's not. Like they're as transparent as they could be.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. Oh, right on.
I think my advice for you want full transparency, win the lottery and buy the team. Then you get to know it all.
There you go.
Yeah, there will always be secrets. There will be always stuff that happens behind closed doors, and
just like in any workplace, anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, so the Hawks did make a trade, and we just touched on him briefly. Anthony, boy, I guess I'm taking Shawnee's place tonight. Beauvillier.
Turn off your fudging phones.
Anthony Beauvillier was traded to the Blackhawks from the Vancouver Canucks for a conditional 5th-round pick. Eric, I think you mentioned yesterday the conditions of that 5th-round pick are they want the better of the 2 5th-round picks from the Blackhawks. Is that what it is, or how does that?
I believe so. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Because the other one was part of another trade.
Yep. And as Eric just mentioned, hefty salary, but necessary salary to hit the floor. And a pretty darn good hockey player, actually. Bardo, are you feeling good about this? This move is good.
Yeah, it's a low risk, high reward deal. It's money just tied up for this year, and I happen to watch him both live as well as in person as well as on TV. Being that the Islanders were in my backyard practically, and he was a 1st-round pick, and he's got speed, he's got skill, he's a streaky player, but he needs to be in a top 6 role, and putting him with with Bedard as a replacement for Hall, I mean, that to me is a solid ad right there. It's not going to move the needle. I don't want people to expect that, but I mean, for people to say, okay, he's playing with somebody who's got talent. Yeah, he's playing with somebody who has talent now. It didn't work out for him in Vancouver after the Horvat trade, and he was, down to the 4th line, and that's just not the place where he needs to be. But move him here, I could see him actually, doing pretty well. So I'm not going to sit here and predict how many goals he's going to score, but for a guy, he's got some hands. He could skate. He's got some decent wheels. So yeah, I mean, it's a solid acquisition, and cost them what, a 5th-round pick? Who cares?
Yeah, it's fine.
7 of them. So
well, and they had to do it too. I mean, to Eric's point, I mean, it's a 5th-round pick. That's not a lot, and you had to give up something. I mean, they were at the mercy of the cap, and I'm sure Vancouver knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So they. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brent.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
Eric. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
That's something that people have been whining about online as well. He has such a bad cap hit, and how did they not get more assets from Vancouver? Well, as you just said, it's a 2-way street.
Yeah.
The Hawks had to add cap. Mm-hmm. So what's Vancouver going to do? Say, oh, well, yeah, take this, take that. Yeah. No, it's the same. It's a 2-way street. So it kind of cancels out. So it ends up just being a fair trade.
Yeah. He just didn't fit in Vancouver also. They wanted also cap flexibility for themselves. I mean, they're playing well. They want to be able to, have the room to go out and make some moves. And, the timing worked out really well in their favor. So they get a draft pick and the Hawks just take the entire salary and it's fine. It works out for both teams.
And it expires at the end of the year.
Exactly. And they figure out
nobody's the wiser. So.
Yeah. The Hawks either re-sign him or they walk away. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Now, question about this, and we'll get into the Hawks roster a little bit, but what I would love to see happen is Joey Anderson's played really well the last few times or the last few outings. He's on that line, with Mac, with Entwistle and Jason Dickinson, who all of a sudden is a scoring machine out of nowhere. And is it impossible to imagine a scenario where the new acquisition, Beauvillier, comes in and they actually contemplate sending Lucas Reichel to Rockford?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to keep Reichel up. I know. I think they're going to keep him up and they're just going to let him get beat up because that's what they're letting. I mean, he would. There's probably a certain point where they're going to say he's just not helping us and they would have to send him down. But I think they're going to stretch it out as long as they can. They're going to try to do like the Korchinski thing. They're just going to let him screw up and let him screw up and let him screw up. And I don't know that that's necessarily always the best. It doesn't work for all players.
It's not. He's just he's just not strong enough on the puck. I mean, I don't. Well,
yeah.
We've beaten up Lucas Reichel a little bit on the show before, but some, I don't know if someone needs to go down now with that acquisition, or someone just needs to be a healthy scratch. Maybe Reese Johnson goes back down.
Well, I think they're good because they lose Perry. They lose Perry's slot and they pick up Beauvillier.
Anderson came up for Paul. Yeah. Right.
For the injured players.
So they just have someone else in the press box.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Colin Blackwell, I think, is still up there.
He's still up there too.
Yeah, he's still injured though, I think.
Yeah.
Well, a good pickup. I mean, he was Beauvillier was a pretty big asset for the Islanders and that team that made it to the conference finals a couple years ago, and they lost in Game 7.
And he was a big piece of the Bo Horvat trade coming back.
Huge piece of that.
And he was on the first line, Beauvillier. I mean, he was a top line player playing with Barzell. So, that's where he belongs. He belongs in a top 6 role. He's going to get power play time. So you're going to see a lot of him in an offensive role.
Well, so he's 27 years old. His contract expires at the end of this year. He is not going to cost $4 million a year starting next year. So, he is someone. Maybe they do keep him around. Who knows?
It's possible.
Yeah. So a big congratulations. We shift gears here. A big congratulations to the Bardo, who when we were talking about where Patrick Kane was going to end up during free agency, Bardo stuck to his guns and picked the Detroit Red Wings. And as of yesterday, it was announced in the morning, right before the Corey Perry press conference, that Patrick Kane signed with the Red Wings for 1 year, $2.7 million per.
Boom, nailed it.
Yeah, which is pretty good. But good job, Bardo. Bardo, we will allow you to gloat for a minute, and then we'll talk about the Kane sweepstakes a little bit here.
Nothing to gloat about. I just kind of connected dots. That's all I did. Yeah, no, I mean, it just, we heard so much over the last several weeks about him missing DeBrincat, and Detroit's kind of, trying to build something. And, it's interesting because I was actually talking to a friend of mine yesterday who's a big Red Wings fan, lives up in Michigan. And he said, look, he's like, the one thing about Yzerman is that you put him in a room with somebody, he's going to convince him, he's going to show him he's got a plan, and he's going to convince somebody to stay. And look, I mean, he probably had a vision and it worked out. And look, it's close to his home in Buffalo where his family is. So it's not that far. So it just made sense. I mean, are we taking Detroit seriously as a contender? No. But I mean, look, that he signed a 1 year deal is more or less a prove it. And he's going with people that he's familiar with. I think he knows Larkin. Does he know Larkin from the Olympics or
probably
World Cup or something like that?
World Championship.
But obviously he knows DeBrincat. So, and even if he puts up some decent numbers, relative to the amount of time he plays, then you know what, that could lead him to getting a multi-year deal next year.
Yep. Yeah.
Maybe.
Pretty cool. And yeah, that comment. Yeah, he is wearing 88. Daniel Sprong of the Red Wings, who was previously 88, is now going to be wearing number 17. So Kane is back in 88, and he's now worn half of the original 6 jerseys, which is actually pretty cool. He only plays for original 6 teams. Brent, does this move the needle for Detroit at all?
No, I don't think it, I don't think it does. To me, it's two-prong. First, like you said, like he wanted to be back with the Rinkcast. Over Patrick Kane's career, who were the 2 guys that you heard him openly say, I miss him? Panarin, you went to New York right away. Now you're back with the Rinkcast, who was the second one. Yeah. Like, for as fun as the Patrick Kane free agency sweepstakes was, pretty boring. Like, Detroit was the first team mentioned. That's where he ends up going. Like, I would love to truly know how many other teams were like really in the running in the end. But, but hey, look at that. We're circling back to the beginning. We aren't on shit. So we'll never know.
Right. Yeah. And when people are like, he's going to Detroit, it's a foregone conclusion. And we were all giggling at him. Oops.
Well, and the second part of that to me, like you said about Yzerman, I mean, to me, that's a goodwill move showing DeBrincat, like, hey, you're our future. Like, we just gave you a big contract.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
want something, we'll get that for you. So, like, to me, that's a good PR move. And, like, adding Patrick Kane, it's not going to hurt you. Like, worst case, he plays terribly and you're done after the year. Like,
right. Gabe, were you surprised at all? Because I don't – and now we're talking about, well, it's a 1-year deal. And, you know, he's late in his career, and Detroit, maybe this doesn't move the needle. Were you surprised that he didn't go to someone who has more of a legit shot?
There were reports out there, and I've been listening to a couple podcasts saying that there were only a handful of teams because he was worried about the travel. He didn't want a lot of travel, which probably would have taken Florida out, because I heard that Florida and Tampa have 2 of the worst schedules as far as travel goes.
Makes
and
sense.
Dallas was a possibility, but their travel is not great either. So as far as like travel goes, I guess Detroit was good. The 1-year thing, like, I don't know. I mean, they said that there was a multi-year deal or some multi-year deals out there, but like, this is a surgery that no one has come back from and played long-term.
Right.
Nicholas Backstrom had to retire. There's several other players who had surgery like this. I mean, look at Patrick Sharp. He had the surgery, played 1 year, and he was significantly slower. He had hip surgery too. Like, this is notoriously a surgery where players do not come back at the level of where, they were anywhere near where they were before any of that stuff. So, like, I think, to me, a 1-year deal makes sense for the team. Now, maybe not for Patrick Kane, and maybe, I don't know, but there's several pieces in here that were involved with with the travel and certain teams, and he probably wanted to stay in the United States. And like, once you start whittling it down, like, I guess it was really the only place he could have ended up.
Yeah, I don't even know if it would have made a difference, but he actually was told that he probably would need surgery last summer. So that would be the summer of 2022. So he took the year, played the year, and then obviously once he got to the Rangers, he looked noticeably slower as time went on. So, he just kind of delayed the inevitable. And then now that he's got surgery, we'll have to see if he can even, buck the trend and come back. So, in full strength, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know. Did Backstrom officially retire, or is he just out for the season?
Well, they said he was taking time away from the game, but he came back and he just was not, like, he wasn't doing anything. They said he was going to take some time away and try to see if he could, work on it a little bit, but it's probably not going to happen. You're getting older. You're not getting younger. And,
kind of like Taves taking a year off of hockey. That's
right. Exactly.
It's a similar kind of deal there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, no one's come back from this surgery. I think someone said Jovanovski might have had this surgery too, and he only played 40 games as well. Like, no one's played over like 40 games after having this surgery. So,
some of the predictions out there actually seem kind of fair. You see things like 31 games, 18, 19 points.
Yeah, that was what I came up with.
Oh, that was what you did. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it could be.
Yeah, he scores some goals. He's got great. He's got great hockey sense and everything like that, and he could put himself in a position to score. But like, is he going to be hustling back on defense to back check? No. Is like he's going to be out there for one thing. It's going to be to try and score goals and maybe set up to Brinkett and Larkin. But that's it. That's what he's there for. Like
he's going to get a majority of his points on the power play, where he doesn't have to really move a lot. And then he can just, use his hands and his vision, where he can just set up, like you said, set up Larkin, set up, all those guys, and to Brinkett, Sider, all those guys.
Yeah. So he has 451 career goals. I do not personally don't think he'll get to 500.
Nope.
No.
And
he might not. Yeah, he might not get to 375.
I was going to say, I don't think he's getting 475.
475. Yeah, and I don't. Madano's at 1374 career points, 1,371 career points, and Kane is at 1,237. So I don't. Yeah, he's probably not going to catch him. That'd be short. And yes, Mike Modano is the highest scoring American-born player of all time. We always need to throw that out there. I'm saying American-born. No, Brett Hull was not born in America. Before we get a whole lot of Brett Hull hate here, Brett Hull's a dual citizen, born in Canada. Anyway, Eric, before we move on, thoughts about the Kane signing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I was able to watch Kane had a press conference this afternoon with the Detroit media, and I mean, it was interesting to kind of just hear him talk about his decision. He spoke very highly about his year playing for Honeybake back when he was in high school, playing in the Detroit area, and said he really enjoyed his time there, and obviously being familiar with the city helps. Being familiar with some of the players who are already there helps. He did talk about the location aspect. Between Chicago and Buffalo, it's almost centrally located. I think he was saying that it pretty much cuts the drive time for his dad in half. So nice. I know he was saying that Mr. Kane is pretty happy about that. To touch on Gates' point, somebody asked him about that report about the travel consideration, and he said that was not a factor in his decision at all. And that he actually had been considering a couple of Western Conference teams and a couple of other Eastern Conference teams as well. So, those were kind of some of the things that stood out the most to me during his availability earlier this afternoon.
Hope the Detroit media liked his bubbly personality.
He was as bubbly as always. Yep.
Oh, God.
All right. Well, good luck to
Mumbles
Patrick
the clown.
Yeah, it is too bad that he didn't get there in time to play tomorrow night against the Blackhawks. That would have been pretty cool.
Oh, that was another thing too. Is someone asked him about that too, and he said that he's targeting next Tuesday in Buffalo for his debut.
That's pretty cool.
He skated with the team today at Madison Square Garden, but is not playing tonight. Will not play against the Blackhawks tomorrow, or I think they're playing against Montreal on Saturday maybe. But said that he's hopeful for Buffalo on Tuesday, but if not, then one of the home games in Detroit at the end of next week.
Yeah, it would have been fun to hear the reaction of him at the Garden. So,
so unfortunately, Chris Chelios is going to have to share the stage with him in February. Chris Chelios' jersey retirement night will be Patrick Kane's first game back in the United Center since last year's trade. So you got a banner going up, all sorts of stuff, and at some point in the game, they will stop the game and have a video tribute that will bring tears to my eyes.
So nobody gets terminated between that day either.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully there won't be. Hopefully there won't be any bad news going on. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go to the on the ice product right now. And one thing I want to get into some positives, right? But the Blackhawks and Eric, we might defer to you early on this one because you mentioned something that the Hawks defensive coach said about Kevin Korchinski and why he is now sticking around. And something to that effect of, well, we'd rather him be up here working on the defensive aspect of his game that he has to work on versus in Seattle racing around, being on the offensive side of the puck. But Kevin Korchinski, he's going to be here this year. It sounds like the Hawks aren't going to deviate from that plan. They're not going to eat salary and then send him back, which is possible. You can do that. But last night was really glaring watching Kevin Korchinski almost, in fact, give the game away. Eric, talk about that comment made by the D coach, whose name I don't know is eluding me.
Yeah, Kevin Dean.
And we're going to
yeah, I thought it was a very interesting thought process, and it makes a lot of sense. But essentially, the gist of his remarks were, we want him here working those kinks out, because if he goes back to Seattle, he's just going to fall back into old habits that he had, and he's not going to be forced to be growing and learning. He's just going to completely dominate again. He completely dominated last year. So if he just goes back, it's going to be the same old thing. He's not going to be moving forward at all. So they wanted to have him with the team this year to be working out those kinks, improving those defensive habits, so that for next year, he is ahead of the curve with the rest of his age group and the rest of the defensive prospects. And then he's able to start really leaning into the offensive side of his game.
Gotcha. Gate, are you buying that, brand? Does that jive with you at all? Being a goalie, if Kevin Korchinski's on the ice, you're going, oh, God.
Oh, I'm for sure. I'm like,
up.
Yeah, buckle up, because here we go. Yeah, it's going to be Thunderdome out here. I mean, sure. I mean, maybe this is part of the, part of the downfall of the CHL agreement, where he couldn't go to the AHL, and maybe that's really where he should be, because maybe he would be bum slaying. It's Seattle, and it would be a wasted year and all that stuff. So, and they don't have any other choice but to leave him in the NHL. Maybe. But yeah, he shows some flashes, and they're really talking him up. You notice why Kaiser hasn't been talked up so much lately. They've kind of moved over to Kevin Korchinski. Yeah. So like they got to pump somebody up. I guess Kevin Korchinski, he's the young kid who's not quite Bedard, but young, good looking kid playing defense, going to be the next quote unquote Duncan Keith or whatever they're going to say about him. And just keep pumping them up and ignoring the mistakes and just accepting them. Okay, fine. If that's what they're going to do, as long as it's not beating them down, as long as, it doesn't matter if they win this year. No, it doesn't. Does it matter if they give up 10 extra goals because Kevin Korchinski was on the ice? No. So like, if this is the way they want to do it, this is the way they want to do it. But, if he regresses and, all this beating that he's been taking, hurts him down the road. Like this is going to shine on them. This is going to be it. Like they've been so bad at developing young players.
Yeah.
And if this is a misstep by them just throwing them out there with no floaties into the deep end of the pool and saying swim,
no
like,
floaties. Yeah.
You ruin another Teuvo Teravainen or, go down the list of players that they kind of ruined the development on. Adam Boqvist, and they did kind of the same thing to Adam Boqvist. They kind of forced him up before he needed to be here, and he just didn't take, and they dumped him early. So I don't know. I could go either way on it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what's right and what's wrong. The CHL agreement, by the way, folks, is, and someone help me with this, but I believe it's the CHL, the Canadian Hockey League, Major Junior Hockey League, has an agreement with the NHL that players of certain age cannot play. If they're pro, if they sign with a club, they cannot play in the AHL. They can only play in the NHL, and they can have an audition of up to 9 games before their entry-level contract kicks in. Korchinski has exceeded that, but because he's not 20 yet, he cannot play in the AHL for Rockford and be developed there. Is that correct, Eric and Brent and everybody?
It's kind of a two-prong thing. Like the age and where he could play. He could either play in the NHL or he could play back at the CHL or the WHL, whatever. Right. CHL encapsulates all the Canadian junior teams.
Right, but he cannot play in the AHL.
Right, yeah, he could play. Right. He, for whatever reason, I guess they were worried that the NHL was going to steal all the CHL players and throw them all in the AHL.
Yeah, I understand that argument from the CHL standpoint, because then 18-year-olds on their 18th birthday would just jump into the AHL.
Right. Yeah,
sign with teams. I get that, but it stinks when you're on the other side of it. Like we
are from
a
development standpoint.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's brutal from a development standpoint, because you have situations like this.
Yeah.
And the only reason that Adam Boqvist didn't get stuck too bad was because he was drafted out of Sweden.
Right.
Even though he played with London, the London Knights, he was drafted out of Sweden. If you're drafted out of the CHL, this agreement is going to be held.
It's in effect right away. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like if Connor Bedard, if they were to say,
So if he
hey, Connor
stayed
Bedard,
over, yeah,
you can't go in the AHL, you got to go back to the WHL, you know?
right. Well, and that happened with what's his name? Shane Wright in Seattle. Boy, what a fiasco that was.
Yeah.
Last year. And it still is. Did he play last night?
I don't think
think he did.
They've been jerking around with him, and I've been crying, and they're like, who are you going to replace? Like, replace anybody. Who cares? It's Shane Wright. He's your first-round draft pick. Like, get him out there.
Yeah. I mean, so the Blackhawks also made it clear that they're not going to send him to the World Junior Tournament, Kevin Korchinski, which they could do. And Brent, how do you feel about that? I've always been an advocate for that. A lot of people disagree with me, which is fine. You know, people say, "Oh, but he can get hurt there." Well, he can get hurt doing anything. But
Yeah,
He'll be fair.
I mean, I get the he could get hurt argument, but like he's clearly not doing well here. You can't send him to the AHL. Out of pride, I'm sure at this point you're not going to send him back to the CHL.
no.
So give him an opportunity to at least play with guys that are more at his level. Maybe that's the confidence boost he needs. Like maybe that's his equivalent of going down to the AHL for 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe it's go back over there, dominate people like you did last year, and prove to yourself that you can still do it, and then come back here and hopefully not get pushed around again.
Yeah.
Or pull a Kirby Doc and break your arm.
Yeah. Jeez. Then there's that. Poor Kirby Doc. Yeah. So real quick, I want to touch base. I know we're approaching the hour, but I want to touch base on Nick Foligno. You know, a guy who came over in the Taylor Hall trade for Ian Mitchell and Alec Regula, who's now a Providence Bruin. And Ian Mitchell is up with the Boston Bruins, and Boston fans are finding out his merits.
He's a healthy scratch is what he is.
Yeah. Well, he's actually been playing lately, and the Bruins have lost 3 in a row. So they're seeing their goaltending tandem is really good, but they're just seeing too much rubber.
Could it be a coincidence?
Yeah. Funny how that works out. Bardo, your thoughts on Foligno? He comes over with Taylor Hall, you know, roster filler, but he's kind of awesome. What do you think about his leadership?
He's the de facto captain is what he is. I mean, he is the unquestioned leader of this team. It has been since day one. It hasn't been Corey Perry.
Right.
It's been him. So he's been great, both on and off the ice. I mean, he's been sort of that lead voice in the locker room, you know, when things are good, when things are bad. And, you know, on the ice, I mean, he's been there standing up for guys. I mean, he's been, you know, playing all up and down the lineup. So to me, I mean, he's been a great acquisition. I mean, he is like the perfect guy to have. I mean, at least we hope he's the perfect guy. So, you know, we've been scarred so many times. But yeah, I mean, I think he's been great. Really, what more can you say? I mean,
yeah. Any other thoughts, Foligno? What do you think, Jeff, Eric? I mean, he's very candid in his interviews. He speaks well about the team. He's clearly still has a passion for the game. When they lose, he's got a lot to say.
And he's been a captain in the NHL. So like, you know, he's a good leader. He's laid back, like he speaks well. And I find it funny, like we're here talking about him. He's like the de facto captain, and how everyone was crying. You got to put a C on him. You got to put a C on him.
Right. Doesn't matter.
Everybody on that team knows who the captain is. You do not need a C on that jersey to know who a captain is. Mm-hmm. They know who their leader is. They know who they go to. They know who they look up to. The C does nothing. So like, why are we in a rush to throw a letter on a guy's jersey like that? Where you're like, you don't need it. You really don't need it. It's a fake thing for the fans to look at. And that's all that is.
It sells jerseys.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, another jersey. Let me put an A. Oh, I bought a Nick Foligno jersey. Now I got to put an A on it.
Yeah.
Like said 5 people.
Yeah. We got a question here from Kevin Thomas. Kevin, thank you for writing in. And what do you guys think about Brandon Hagel with an E doing as well as he is in Tampa? Hagel with 2 E's. Brandon Hagel's doing very well in Tampa Bay, and good for him. And I still like that trade. Anyone else?
As a Hawks fan, I love the 2 first-round picks. So
Yeah.
it's a gift that keeps on giving.
And
Yep.
you're going to find out down the road that the 2 first-round picks are probably going to equate to more than what Brandon Hagel does in the long run.
Yeah.
It's just that's what's going to be. I mean, Brandon Hagel was an undrafted free agent, and you got 2 first-round draft picks for him. Like,
And 2
that's just
players
free
that
money.
are still on the roster for the Hawks that are playing every night.
And they extended him.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, that's what they needed right then. They needed
Absolutely.
an affordable guy that could play where he's playing. The Blackhawks didn't need it at that point in time, and they don't need it right now. Like, he didn't fit their timeline. They need younger guys.
And his value was so high at the time
Yeah.
that they traded him. And Kevin or Kyle Davidson was in a position at the time where, you are moving assets with the effort to tank. So anyone who has questions saying, well, what do you think of DeBrincat now? What do you think of Hagel now? Kane's gone. What if Kane starts lighting it up? Well, folks, did you want Connor Bedard here or not? Like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
In the end, you're going to say, I'm glad we got Connor Bedard. I mean,
Yes.
that's just the way it's going to be.
Yes.
There's no doubt in my mind that
Yeah.
Connor Bedard may be the best Blackhawk that ever suited up eventually down the road.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, if we look at the roster right now, aren't there probably 2 or 3 guys that are probably somewhat equal to Hagel? Like, Boris Kachuk or, Entwistle, or maybe a poor man's Hagel? No?
Those guys are JV Hagels. I
mean, maybe Radish. Radish.
Okay.
He's put in that kind
I'm
of.
thinking Dickinson right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Hagel's a guy that you could play up and down the lineup as probably a 3rd or 4th line guy on a championship team.
Yes.
Which is probably what Entwistle is,
Yeah.
or somebody like that.
And good for Hagel. His value is
good
very
for him.
high. They needed to dump him, and they got picks for him, and everybody's winning in the Hagel trade right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a good trade for all.
And I don't think anything would be any different here in Chicago if Brandon Hagel, they might even be worse than they are right now if Brandon Hagel was here.
Yeah.
And they didn't have Kachuk and they didn't have Radish to help fill out that roster. And, they wouldn't, who did they get for that pick? Who was it? Was it Oliver Moore?
Yeah.
Yep.
They got Oliver Moore for that pick. I mean, that guy's going to be phenomenal. He might be your number 2 center of the future.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right.
Like,
he is going to be
Another first that's going
on
to be
the
a
World
top 20
Juniors.
pick next year.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So-
We should just be praying and hoping that Tampa Bay just keeps losing. We hope that, maybe their goalie gets hurt again. I don't want to say it like that.
Get another pick in the low teens would be pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and the rate they're going, they're going to be in the top 5 with their other picks. So, like,
Right. Yep.
2 nice first round picks 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Kevin, it is a great question, though, because I think that, I think when Hagel was traded, everyone kind of went, ugh. And when you see old players do well, you wince a little bit and you say, God, I wish I still had him around, and he was a great player. But, in the business aspect of it, it is a no-brainer. So, I would, though, like Connor Bedard to stop on a puck every now and then. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and be critical of Connor Bedard. If you watch Connor Bedard, folks, what's that?
How dare you?
How dare I say that? No, but he's young, and they're one of the parts of his game that needs refining is stops and starts. He does make
Do not
a lot
speak of the great 98 like that.
He does make a lot of ring turns. It's an old habit that he could get away with when he was playing with younger players, and he makes a lot of rink turns and turns his back to the play a little bit too much. He'll get over that. I'm sure they're working with him on it, but they're definitely last night's game. Connor Bedard, I would venture to say last night's game might not have been his best out of his 20 so far. And it's not just because of points. It's for a lot of things. And obviously I'm sure he had a pretty tough day.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was going to say. He probably had a pretty tough day,
Really
tough
tough.
couple of days. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is very unfair for an 18-year-old kid. But all that aside, just, hey, stops and starts. Hey, he's going to be a stud. He is a stud. He's the man. Love him. Cheers. Anyway, Matt Pesnarski, another good point. Hagel's cap hit for next year is $6.5 million. That's a hard pass. Atta baby, Matt. Way to come through.
My boy, Matt.
That's good stuff. Anyway, anyone else have any final thoughts, fellas, as we're about to hit the hour mark? Any other thoughts on the Hawks Anything we've been covering tonight?
I mean,
I'd
just
like to
watch.
circle.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. I talked
I was
enough.
going to say I'd like to circle back, and I have a nickname for Kevin Korchinski.
Oh.
I will start referring to him as Yeah, because if you ever watch an interview with him on the radio or TV, when he starts an answer, he is incapable of just saying, yeah, whatever. It's always, yeah.
So the guy from the Sandlot?
It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Canadian, it's hilarious.
Oh, it's like Bedard. Every answer he says is for sure. Oh, for sure.
They got to work on their PR.
Yeah, they'll get some media.
Did you talk to him?
I'll take care of him.
Coaching. Yeah, it'll turn up.
I media train you a kind plenty of times. So
Here, let me throw this out there, just as a little silly aside with Kevin Korchinski.
Yeah.
Every time I look at Kevin Korchinski, if you don't know who he is, look up comedian Matt Rife. They look like they could be brothers to me. He's a new, like, up and coming comedian. He's a young dude, like, and he's getting to be very popular. But look up Matt Rife. It's RIFE. He's a really good comedian. We'll go watch a special. But Kevin Korchinski looks like his brother.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's
Cool.
a good one. Doppelganger.
Awesome. Brent, you got anything before we go?
No, not really. I just
I'm just gonna go back and kick the shit out of people on Twitter.
I'm just enjoying that it's not sub-zero down here in sunny Florida. Apparently it's gonna be 80 this weekend. So
winter everywhere else.
Okay, I'm sorry for my outburst earlier. I came at you with a lot of anger and that was unnecessary.
Wow. That was a big one there, Jeff.
Where in Florida are you, Brent?
Orlando.
Okay.
Nice. Well, we've got the Hawks are at Little Caesars Arena tomorrow night. And they've got a lot of hockey games coming up. So that should be a fun one to watch. If, with Detroit and their high-flying offense, there could be a lot of transitional hockey tomorrow. Let's hope for a high-scoring affair and some of our young guys to get some points.
I will add that. All I want tomorrow is a Connor Bedard goal, and he has the cojones enough to do the heartbreaker in person.
That would be cool.
That'd be cool. Phenomenal. Because you know what? Patrick Kane is running scared from playing the Hawks tomorrow. He's terrified.
Connor Murphy's going to hit him into the 6th row and break his other hip.
Connor Murphy. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And for the folks that listened tonight, and thank you for all your questions and your comments. Some really good stuff there in the comment section in the chat group. And obviously, Hawks fans right now have a lot on their minds with regards to this team, what's going on the ice and what's going on off it as well. But thank you so much for joining us. Some good stuff, and we will be back again next week. On behalf of all my buddies, Andy Campbell, thank you, Brent. Thank you, Bardo. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Gatekeeper. And we'll catch you all on the flip side. Thanks very much.